Hello everyone, my name is Will Evans. I work here at Purdue RecWell as a wellness coach.
And my name is Ryan Whitt, and I'm also a wellness coach here at Purdue RecWell.
And today we're going to be covering the wellness topic of time management.
I have a lot of clients who come in and they say, Ryan, I have no idea how to manage my time at all. Where do I even start? So Will, what kind of tips or advice would you give them?
If you don't even know where to begin, it kind of sounds like a contradiction or maybe a paradox, but just begin, right? And I say that because there's this phenomenon called the Zeigarnik effect. And so say you have a big paper you need to write. What our brains have a tendency to do is just to look at all the complicated tasks associated with that paper, and then we just immediately shut down. But our brain also has this tendency to hate unfinished tasks, right? So if you've ever had this song stuck in your head and you just can't get it out, one of the best tips and tricks to remove that song from your head is to find it and listen to it all the way to the end, because that satisfies our brain's desire to complete a task, right? So we have both these tendencies to not want to start something because it's difficult, but then once we started it, we have to complete it to feel satisfied, right? So start with something easy, and that could just be, I'm gonna write the title page. I'm gonna put a title and my name to this paper, and then once I've begun it, your brain kind of kicks in and says, all right, well, now that we've started it, we need to finish it. What tips and tricks, though, would you have for clients who they do have a lot going on, but they don't know how to prioritize where to begin?
Well, I have a lot of people that come in and I'll ask them right off the bat, do you have a schedule? Do you have a set routine that you like to keep with? And they'll say, I generally know when I'm supposed to be doing what I need to. And I'll say, okay, can I see your schedule? And they'll say, oh no, it's just all up here. And I'll say, well, we want, just naturally, I feel like it's so much easier to have everything if we have it right in front of us that we can look at it. So I would definitely start there. Have everything written out, blocked out throughout the week. And that way we can kind of see where different amounts of our time we might be available to do something, either for ourselves, have some me time, or slip in things that we feel like we don't have time for.
What tips would you give people for, if they say, hey, I really have a lot to do, but I'm always tired and I don't feel like doing it?
We have in one of our resources that we'll provide in the link below, we talk about an energy curve. So mapping out throughout your day where you feel like you have the most energy, and then where you kind of have like a lull kind of around lunchtime, a lot of people have it, and then mapping out when you're going to do different tasks throughout your day based off that energy curve. Making sure that all your tasks that you want to be effective with match up with that curve is important.
Yeah. You mentioned a lot of clients come in and just have it all up here in their head, right? And one thing that we also get to talk with clients about is how to set appropriate goals or to-do lists, right? So a to-do list should never be a list of just general goals. It should always be a list of goals and accompanying tasks, right? And that way you know that you're having effective time management, because let's say, for instance, I had on my to-do list, I'm gonna clean my apartment, I'm gonna grocery shop, and I'm gonna work out, right? Looking at that list, it seems pretty small and doable, but once I start actually doing all of those things, I quickly might find that I don't have enough time to finish all of them, because cleaning the apartment could mean, I have to wash the dishes, do laundry, straighten up, make the bed, clean the bathroom, and then by the time I'm done with that, I barely have time to go grocery shopping, and then since I barely have time to grocery shop, I just didn't work out that day. Right? And it's not because I'm bad at time management, it's just I'm bad at creating to-do lists. And so I think I'm better at doing something than I really am, right?
I like to tell my clients, thinking about a computer that's loading, a load screen, and it has a little bar. And when I compare two different situations, one, the situation is the bar does not move at all for 5 minutes, and then the page loads. Right. And then the other computer, the bar's loading throughout the whole time, throughout the 5 minutes, and the mindset between the two people is the person where the bar isn't loading, it's, they're getting upset, maybe even stressed out. Why is my computer not loading? When is this going to happen? And then the other person who's watching the bar slowly get to the end point might have a different mindset, just feeling like, okay, we're almost there, about halfway there.
Right.
So just always having that to where you can kind of monitor where you're at throughout your progress is something that's important to your mindset and overall going after goals and stuff like that. But I think that's one way to look at it. I know a lot of clients will come in, they'll be like, I don't want to set 10 little goals to get to that end point. And I'll explain this to them that this is to keep you motivated throughout that entirety of the process.
Right. And one final thing I want to touch on is just the innate tendency for all of us to mistakenly believe that we are better at something and then we're not, right? And this has a name. It's called the Optimism Bias. And we do this with a lot of small tasks like, I don't know, driving or studying or reading or something, right? So a lot of people, when asked the question, hey, are you better than the average driver on the road? And studies that examine the optimism bias, 80% of participants raise their hand, right? And that's a statistical impossibility. You can't have more than 50% be better than the average, right? And the optimism bias is just important to keep in mind when considering time management, because we can trick ourselves into thinking that this task will take shorter than what my ability and reality reflect. So I always try to tell clients, and maybe you'll find this helpful too, is after and before each task, give yourself a buffer period of maybe 10 to 15 minutes. That way, if the task takes longer, you can bleed over into that kind of grace period, and it doesn't have to push the next thing on your calendar back even farther.
Yeah, I think this really touches with the new changes that we might have. Some people who think that they can procrastinate a lot of their assignments on Blackboard if it's not due till that 11:30 p.m. deadline. That doesn't mean that you should always push those up until the last minute. So make sure that you don't get caught with that during these new changes.
True. If you want to use the energy curve that Ryan mentioned before and other resources, you can check out the links in the description below.